Hello and welcome to this video. I don't even know how exactly to introduce it, but fact of the matter is I have this unopened N-scale diesel locomotive from the year 1967 that has never been opened, never been run, never been so much as touched up until now, and we're in the second day of 2023. So should be interesting. Might not even run, but it's worth a shot. So we'll just kind of see where it goes. Maybe what I'll do is in the description, I'll put the timestamp of when I actually test the locomotive so that you don't have to just listen to me talk for however many minutes it is when I tell you the history of all this stuff. So if you're interested in just seeing the locomotive run or not run, then maybe I'll try to drop that timestamp in the description and you can just click on that and see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to talk about the history of these trains a little bit. Long story short, what I have here is an N-scale layout on just Kato Unitrack. It's 2.5 feet wide and 4 feet long, at least that's the board, the dimensions of the board that I'm working on. So the layout is just a tiny bit smaller than that. But I've been doing N-scale for a little while now. I used to always just have Atlas Snaptrack, and I would kind of take it out and set it up on a tabletop and then run it for a few weeks if I was home for the holidays or something of the sort, and then put it away. I've done HO gauge for a while, or HO scale, but more recently I've decided I'm going to get more into N-scale just because I think it's more compact. It's a little bit more sustainable, especially because I'm probably going to be moving around a bit in the coming years. A little easier just to package up and move from place to place. You know, you can fit a crud ton of rolling stock and locomotives in a shoebox, whereas with HO scale you can't exactly do that. So yeah, don't know how that's relevant, but fact is, this is N-scale. And the way I ended up acquiring these trains is my great-grandfather was apparently a big model railroad guy. I never met the guy, but apparently he loved trains, much like I do. Spent a lot of his life acquiring a bunch of N-scale rolling stock locomotives, track, you name it. And my grandfather is currently working on moving houses and on downsizing. So he told me, knowing my interest in model trains, that I ought to just look through the stuff that his dad had and just take whatever I wanted, which I greatly appreciated. I mean, he's not going to use it. He knows how much I love trains. So I don't think he even realized how much stuff he had stored in his house there, because I was absolutely blown away by the amount of locomotives, rolling stock, track, literally everything. It was just absolutely mind-blowing. So for lack of a better term, I have run into a crud ton of N-scale trains. And this is an example of something that I acquired. These were little, I guess, N-scale train sets, you could say, that were marketed under the name Postage Stamp Trains, as you can see on the top there. I actually have the full box that these things came in over here. You can see Postage Stamp Trains, manufactured and packaged by a company called Aurora. I guess they were a plastics company, as you can see there, Aurora Plastics Corporation from New York. This was packaged in 1967. I did some research, and it was in the late 60s that these were packaged and sold. It is N-scale, but they actually called it micro gauge back then. I'm not sure why. I think it was because that just made them a little more marketable. It even says on the back of this package that, you know, unlike a lot of the bigger stuff out there, you can set these trains up and run them on something as small as a coffee table. And I think back in the day, building a model railroad seemed like something that was kind of an intense investment in terms of time, space, and money. So I think that they were like, hey, micro gauge trains, you can kind of do this anywhere. But anyways, the way that these trains were packaged is, if you open the little case here, they came with a left and right panel here, and on the left side, see if I can drop it in to show you. On the left side, they would put the rolling stock, which usually came with 4 cars, be some kind of box car, some kind of I guess it's not quite a hopper car, but like I'm totally forgetting the name of that car right now. But that, and then a flat car and a caboose. And it would also come with, as you can see here, what was marketed as an F9 diesel locomotive. Based on research I've done, a lot of the experts are saying that it's really closer to an F7 locomotive. I don't know. I don't know the differences. I'm a little bit better with steam engines than I am with diesel locomotives, so I don't know diesel quite so well, but I'm sure someone out there could give you a better explanation. But they were marketed as F9s, and they came in both Union Pacific and Santa Fe. I actually have an example of the Santa Fe locomotive right here. My grandfather bought probably 4 of these packages of Postage Stamp Trains. The other 3 had already been opened, and this one had just been unopened, and so far all the locomotives work, believe it or not. I think my grandfather, when I was a young kid, he would pull them out and set them up on the table just for me to look at because he knew I loved model trains. So we would run them in circles on his kitchen table when I was a kid. There's some photos of that I also found while I was out there and visiting my grandpa. But they run pretty well from what I've seen so far. I had to oil a couple of them because some of them were having a hard time. I wasn't sure if they were having a hard time like picking up the DC signal of the track, or if they were just that old and needed to kind of be taken apart and oiled and put back together. But gave most of them just a little bit of oil between the gears here on the bottom, and that seemed to kind of do the trick, at least for the most part so far. They all run really, really smoothly. I've been very impressed. It's kind of fun doing an old meets new. You got 1960s trains that are running on, 2023 Kato Unitrack. This is a brand new set of Kato track that I just got at Christmas time. So it's been kind of fun to do that. But anyways, yeah, F9 locomotive. As you know, the F units, or as you might not know, F units often had trailing units, as you can see over here. These are all dummies that I just have on display. These are other things that my great-grandfather bought. But the way these F-class locomotives would work is that they would have a main unit and a trailing unit. Both were powered, and you can kind of get a good idea of what those look like there. But what my great-grandfather also bought was also by Postage Stamp Trains. He bought several of these. Let me see if I can get this open here. Oh, this is a pain with only one hand. There it is. He bought several of these dummy units in both the trailing unit and in the lead unit, so it's kind of fun. You could do like an ABBA configuration if you wanted to. But this is an example. This is the B unit for the Union Pacific. So what I'm going to do when I run the locomotive here is I'm going to attach the B unit and just see if that works. But yeah, without further ado, I think I'm gonna get into this thing. So let me see if I can convert my camera here into a tripod. We'll take a quick cut. Okay, now we're in tripod view. I don't think I'm like super centered here, but we'll try to fix that. Anyways, not a great angle, but I think it's gonna work for what we're doing. Before I open the package, something that I wanted to note that's kind of funny is the rolling stock that came with these trains. This is the one that comes with the Union Pacific trains. Has a Union Pacific caboose, Norfolk and Western flat car, not you can see it very well, Southern Pacific, I think that's a gondola, and then a New Haven, I don't know if you can see up here, I'll just lift it up real quick, New Haven boxcar. So kind of an interesting mishmash of railroads that are printed on the side of the rolling stock. But something I wanted to note that's kind of funny is, in contrast, here is the set of rolling stock that came with the Santa Fe locomotive. And I thought it was funny because the caboose is Santa Fe, but the flat car is Union Pacific, which I think is kind of funny. It's like, why didn't they just put the Union Pacific flat car with the Union Pacific locomotive? I don't know. It's just funny to me. And yes, I am certain that this is how they were packaged because I have multiple packs of these and they're all packaged the same way. So I just think it's funny that they put a Union Pacific flat car with the Santa Fe locomotive when they had a Union Pacific locomotive that they could have put it with. So who knows what they were doing? Maybe they wanted to just dish out a mishmash of things. So anyways, all right, let's get this thing open here. Let me see, I don't even know where to start. Also, I'm sorry, as a side note, I'm sorry if you notice how dry my hands are. I wash my hands way too often, so that's just something that I have to deal with and that you might have to look at. So I apologize for that. Here we go. Trying to strike the right balance of both doing this efficiently and doing it in such a way that you can see it. So this is just kind of a mess, isn't it? There we go. Boom. Get that out of the way so you can stop hearing it crinkle. Well, there you have it. You can see the track here. It's a lot like the Atlas Code 80 track. If you're familiar with that, you can see the way that they all just kind of snap together here. If I can do this while still looking through my camera. Boom. They just kind of click together like that. I actually did try one of these sets when I was at my grandpa's house testing these trains before taking them home. Obviously not testing this one because it hadn't been opened, but testing some of the other ones. I did try this track. Just kind of cleaned it, even though it came straight out of the package, and it actually worked pretty well. I was pretty impressed with how well it worked, despite being so old. And the way the wiring on this old track would work is this is your, I'm sure there's a better name for it, but this is like the piece of track that you hook up your DC wiring to. And the way this worked, if I can show you here, is that you would press down on top of these little panels here, and then you would stick the wire into the hole that it creates when you push down, and then you would connect those to the power pack, plug the power pack into the wall, and then you were off and running. So obviously the technology has gotten better, like with the, like Bachmann and Kato, the way they have what am I trying to say here? The way they have the wiring like just built into a little plug that you can just stick directly into the track from the power pack. So it's gotten simpler, but back in the day of using 2 wires, this is a pretty brilliant idea. So anyways, there's that. And here, oh geez, gotta be careful here. Here is our locomotive. And that's just crazy to me. This thing was packaged in 1967, and this is the first time it's coming out of its box. So based on what I'm feeling, the trucks move really well. And that was something that I noticed with the dummy units that was a bit of a struggle, is that the trucks were really stuck in there. Maybe I can show you on the B unit here that came in this package. Now this one's actually pretty good, but these ones here were having a really hard time moving, so I had to oil those to kind of get them functioning again. But anyways, yeah, these trucks move really well. The locomotive just looks amazing. You'd never know it was put away for all those years. I mean, by today's standards, the detail's not great, but a little bit of styrofoam stuck on the top there. By today's standards, it's not super detailed, but I mean, for what it is, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty awesome. The manufacturer of the locomotive, I don't know if you can read that there. Which way am I trying to go? There we go. It's hard to look through the camera and figure out exactly what to do with everything. There you go. I got it focused. You can see it's Trix, made in Western Germany. I looked up Trix. I think they still make locomotives. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, all these Postage Stamp Trains had Trix locomotives. I was doing some research, and I guess they partnered with Aurora somehow so that they could sell their locomotives in their train sets. So yeah, I don't think I really have much more information to give. I think I just need to put this thing on the track and test it. So now for the long-awaited moment. All right, had kind of a hard time deciding where I was going to put the tripod relative to where I'm going to be railing the trains here. I'm going to start by putting on the B unit here, use my little Kato railer that my track pack came with. So you can see the B unit is on there and it is moving nicely. And then I'm going to go ahead and push that. Well, yeah, I guess I'll push that back. And then come up here, make sure my switch is thrown the right way. And I'm going to put on the A unit. Go ahead and back that up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this back to my little handheld. Oops, sorry, my finger's there. This is very unprofessional in case you didn't notice. And I'm going to plug in my Kato power pack here. Oh, I've got to use another hand, so sorry. You have to look away for a minute. Oh, come on. Come on. There it is. Okay, now it's all plugged in. Yes, my power pack is facing backwards just because that was the easiest way to do it with the wiring. So, okay, I'm going to make sure all my switches are thrown in the right direction so that the signal is actually conducted. The way some of this DC track works, maybe DCC works like this too, is that the switches actually have to be thrown in the right direction in order for the trains to actually run, at least in my experience with this stuff. So, for example, like if this switch is thrown this way, which means it's geared towards the main line, then nothing out here on this little switching area will run while the switch is flipped in that direction. It won't run until you flip it this way. And I think that's because if it's flipped this way, this rail, oh, sorry, you can't see it. This rail doesn't have anything to connect to in terms of electrical conductivity. So it doesn't become connected until you flip it that way. And now the rails are touching and it's connected to your power supply over here. That probably didn't make any sense, but that's okay. It made sense to me. So hopefully it makes sense to someone else out there. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna put this thing in reverse for starters and just see if I can hook it up to our B unit here. And let's just see. All right, we're turning the dial. Oh man, it's moving. How about that? All right, let's go ahead and let's flip it forward. Wow, it is moving. I have it on a very low speed right now, but I'm gonna let it kind of take a trip around the track here. Got a bunch of stuff sitting out like oil and candles. I'm sorry you can't really see it. Wow, I cannot believe it's moving. I mean, I guess I can because all the other locomotives work so well, but this one had been, oops. Oh shoot, I left the switch unthrown. The Kato stuff has this thing where it'll like short circuit if you leave something flipped the wrong way like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and reset it. You can see that the pack is glowing red because it short circuited. So I'm gonna reset it, put it back to forward, and let's try again. Wow, it's working again. I'm noticing that every time I fire it back up after turning it off, it takes I only have to go like less direction or less distance up the power pack for it to find a signal. When I first started, I had to turn it all the way to over here just to get it moving, and now it's working at right about here. So I'm sure that'll only get better with time, but man, look at that. That is pretty incredible. Not even going full speed right now. Look at that. Kind of blown away. All right, let's go ahead and let's crank it up a little, why don't we? Look at that thing move. All right, let me go ahead and bring us to a stop here. Well, I guess we got a runner. We got a little more than a runner. It's kind of runs perfectly. Geez, runs as well as the other ones I have. Maybe what I'll do here is I'll hook up some of these other dummies, and then I'll hook up these old, oh geez, there goes one of my locomotives. These I just have like on display because these two steam locomotives don't work. I'm gonna have to fix them, but for right now I kind of have a museum style setup. That's besides the point. I totally just knocked over my my Mikado there. So yeah, I'm gonna put on these Union Pacific passenger cars, and then we'll give this thing a few laps for you to watch. Okay, I got my ABBA configuration here with the powered unit being up here, up front. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw my switch here, and then I'm gonna go and grab these old Union Pacific passenger cars. This is basically the old version of the Union Pacific excursion set that you can get these days to put behind like the 844 or the big boy. They'll have the old Rapido couplers, as a lot of this vintage stuff does. Doesn't bother me. I'm still enjoying this stuff. I know a lot of people are bothered by those old couplers, but that's okay. I'm personally not. So let's see. I'm gonna run it backwards here. All right. I think we got those. And we do. Ooh, having a hard time getting traction up front here. Maybe just need a quick little boost there. Sometimes when you put a real heavy train on, the engine has a hard time getting traction. Oh, and that's what's happening right now. So let me see if I can just encourage it a little. There we go. I think sometimes having cars off in the little switching area makes it harder to pull across here. So I'm gonna try not to overpower the engine, but I think once we get out on the main line, we should be fine. I think I got a little ambitious doing 4 Union Pacific cars just because they're pretty heavy. So I'm gonna resort to 3, and that seems to be working a little better so far. So what I'll probably have to do is I'll either do just the A and the B unit and all 4 Union Pacific cars, or I'll do ABBA and do just 3 of them. So it seems to be working fine now. There you go. So there you have it, 1967 locomotive, never opened, never run. And here we are jamming away on a layout in 2023. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. I have no clue if 2 people are going to see this, 10 people, 100 people, or something in between, but if you like it and you want to see more, let me know. I got plenty more where this came from.